Welcome to the shop. So, unfortunately, my Tigercat has a bit of a problem. The other day, doing a maneuver and lost telemetry. Actually, I thought I screwed something up until I listened to the replay of the video.
Telemetry lost. Telemetry lost.
And heard my alarm go off that I lost her telemetry. Anyway, she slammed in pretty hard. Obviously, broke the fuselage in half, messed up both wings. The vertical stabilizer broke off, sheared off, canopies destroyed. But what the heck? I'm going to rebuild it. So I'm going to take you along the ride in this video, going through the whole process of assessing the problems, whether they're electrical, structural, the motor mount on both the motors kind of get tweaked and bent. I'm going to fix that. I'm going to show how I go through the process. Any questions, leave a comment. If you like what I'm doing, like, subscribe, all the cool stuff. Appreciate it. Stick around. Okay, I'm kind of just doing my assessment on all the different things that need attention, starting with the fuselage. Luckily, the landing gear shouldn't be in too bad of shape. It really wasn't out, and the plane hit inverted, so maybe we're good there. There's a couple crinkles in here that hopefully the steam can fix, maybe a few cracks, some fractured areas that I will get some E6000 in, areas like that. So there's a couple areas that are just going to need a little bit more attention. The brake on this, as you can see, it's pretty clean. E6000, and I'll probably put some carbon fiber spars through there to give it just a little bit more structure after it glues up. Obviously, do a little work there on the electronics. I'm a little concerned about some of these pins that were damaged during the violent separation of the tail section. So some of these pins got a little tweaked. Probably going to have some electrical issues. And frankly, I want to find out, why did I lose signal? Was it a power issue, or I lost RF? So we'll figure that out as I'm going through all this. Oh, another big problem that I have is that little tab right there. The wing fits inside and it's threaded. This one is missing. Well, it's not missing. I have it. It's just got ripped off. So E6000 to glue that back together, and some carbon fiber rods shoved in there, hopefully to reinforce it. So got that. And then on here, the vertical stabilizer, obviously, it ripped off completely. I kind of dry fit it, and then pieces went together well. Going to have to, after that gets done, steam this, form this, and then hit it with spackle, sand it, paint it. That's about it on the tail section. It's not that bad. This piece broke off, but I have that little piece there. Reconnect, double check that all the servos didn't get destroyed, because sometimes when you have these violent situations, you'll have servo issues. So, gonna glue that back together and keep moving through the process. So here's a bit of an issue. This little part here fits right there. It holds the wing on. Well, it fastens the wing to the fuselage so it doesn't slide off, but obviously there's a big carbon fiber bar right here. Anyway, got to fix that. That's a big deal. So here's the game plan. Going to glue it on with E6000 just to get it attached and get it aligned properly. I'm going to be drilling holes through this, and I'm going to put a carbon fiber pin that's going to go through here and into this foam. I'm going to fill the whole thing up with E6000, and so that'll give the carbon fiber rod something to basically solidify to, and get it into that foam to give it just a little bit extra support. So that's the plan. A couple areas need a little glue, just to get things back to normal. I'm gonna have to steam some of this stuff, I think. This one though has a break for sure, right there. So I'm gonna hit this with E6000 from the back side here. Shove some in the crack with my syringe. and make sure it's seated properly. And I'm going to hit it with the old safety pin trick. A little bit of a crack in the front area here, and that's going to require a little bit more work. I might have to get in there inside here a little bit more, try to get that gear to open up for me so I can make a change on, get inside there a little bit better, because definitely there's some damage internally to the front, to the nose of this thing. So we're going to get some glue shoved into there, clamp it, and go from there. Creative clamping sometimes is the name of the game. E6000 is great, but it does require some clamping. So a lot of these cards, pieces of foam to kind of distribute the load so you're not going to damage the foam too much. There might be some, but I'm willing to take that risk a little bit. So we'll see. Getting back to the creative clamping, putting in a couple pins, some rubber bands to hold that part together. Just different things that you're going to come up with as you're trying to piece things together and kind of hold them there. So anyway, just some ideas. Got a little repair work here. So I'm going to get some of these crinkles out. Handy dandy spoon. Try to smooth these things out. Yeah, does a little bit. Catch up here real quick. Rudder, it's not perfect, but it's good enough. The vertical stabilizer is okay. Some of the Steam did an okay job on that. Not perfect. One of the things I wanted to do is check the servos before I glued everything together, and the rudder servo is stripped. So I had to order another one. It's funny, I've got a box with about 20 different servos in it, but nothing that fits this exactly. So 15 bucks, had to order one of those. Next is going to be gluing on the vertical stabilizer, not getting any glue in the hinges, and just kind of being very sparingly with the E6000, brushing it on. It shouldn't be a big deal, and actually I've dry fitted a couple times. It fits together very nicely. All clean brakes, nothing too bad. So that's what we're going to do next. Well, it ain't perfect, but it's halfway decent. So we'll check back with it. I'll keep checking on it for the next, hour or so, making sure nothing moved. But tail's glued on with E6000, sparingly with a syringe and a brush. Here I'm going to have to, probably going to take this chunk of foam, cut this out smooth, and then fit a existing chunk of foam and then paint it versus spackling, which I think the foam will just work better just to replace that. Quick shop tip. Fixing my Tigercat. Got a big old chunk taken out. The foam, I don't know where it is. It's in the field somewhere. But instead of spackling that with lightweight spackle or some kind of filler, why not take a chunk of an old plane that broke and make a nice clean cut with a razor. Do the same here, and they'll be pretty darn close on the fit. And you can kind of fiddle around. Tip is, don't get rid of some of this foam. EPO foam from a previous plane will come in handy eventually. So here's the piece I cut out of that tail section of my P51. I can put it in there. And now just start taking off a little bit here, a little bit there. It's about the same thickness. It's about what I want. It's just not perfectly set in there yet. So a little bit more fine tuning and I'll have a better fit than I could have ever gotten with spackle. Looks better too, and I don't have to paint it. Real quick, it wasn't quite wide enough here, so I just split it, shoved a piece of foam in, covered everything with glue, and now she fills that cavity much better and doesn't have a little gap there. Much better looking. You know, it's amazing at what you can do when you got the right pieces and parts. Little patience. So sorry I didn't take you along the process of re-gluing the fuselage back together, but she's glued up. My favorite glue. Brushed it in, put everything together. Went together pretty clean, so no big deal. I'm just resting her on her nose, leaning her up, kind of vertical as best I can, and just going to let that sit for a day. Just a quick pic of what it looks like as far as her sitting on her nose, and she's just going to sit there. I've got the tripod right here that I kind of move up against it just to make sure something stupid doesn't happen and she falls over. She's still kind of fragile right now with the glue curing, so a little bit more time and we're good. If anything, gives me time to clean up my shop, because with this build, everything's all over the place, so we'll get to it. Quick update. So got a lot of the stuff worked out as far as the tail section. That's all done. Servos are working. Got my new servo for the rudder. Everything's working there. Fixed all the electronic part. There's no issues there. But one of the things I'm doing right now is you see all these wood clamps on here. The fuselage, when it hit, it actually split, you know, where the glue was on the seam, several places throughout the front of this. So I've glued up in the front. Now I noticed that on the bottom side it was a big gap, and where this plywood attaches into the foam here on this side was loose. So again, my syringe with my glue shoved it underneath this, you know, shoved it in that corner there, deep inside there with the syringe, clamped it, and let it sit for, you know, for the rest of the day to cure. So that's where we are. Both wings actually survived relatively well. Relatively. You know, obviously, a lot of grass, a lot of debris on them. Again, the landing gears didn't deploy, you know, it was inverted, so I didn't have a problem there. What did happen, though, is, I don't know if you can tell, is, you know, we have some, well, the props got ripped off, but I want to double check on the motor mount. It looks like it is off slightly, and I think that should be straight. So I'm going to double check a few things and redo that. The other one I've already taken apart and found that it was seriously bent. Luckily for me, I've got a lot of these little plastic parts laying around. And when I bought this used plane, the person had a whole bunch of extra pieces, as well as props and so on and so forth. So wings, not too bad. One of the other wing had a break up in one of the nacelles. Easy to fix, easy to put that back together. So the wings aren't in bad shape. So really, I got a fuselage that needs work. I'm going to have to do some, you know, some paint job, little spackle, and she'll be back up and running in no time. Stay tuned. Trying to get inside here so I can re-glue some of this stuff. And a lot of wiring, connectors for the motors. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, you can. This is part of the retract system, but here's what I wanted to repair right there, that part. So not a big deal. Gonna take some E6000 in my syringe, shove it in there, get it locked in place, maybe put a couple pins in, and she'll be good as new in short order. So go ahead and do that. Alright, kind of screwed up here. Got a lot of glue dripping around. Good amount. Not too worried about some of this because you can't really see it. What I don't want to do though is glue those doors. Alright, so I'm going to squish it together, clean up that. Pretty happy with that. And take a couple pins. Yes, it'll make a few holes, but more importantly, it'll keep this tight while the E6000 does its job. So here's the aluminum motor mount, and as you can see, it got a little tweaked. So here I have this big, solid, super flat piece of brass, and I'm going to take a ball peen hammer, hammer that out, try to straighten it. And I've been successful at doing that a couple times on these things that get bent. And I'll double check everything, but I think we're getting pretty close to getting it back where it was. It's aluminum, so it bends relatively easy. So we'll get that put back together and hope for the best. Okay, little kind of update here. She's all put together. Pretty sound. Everything, as far as all the additional gluing I did, everything worked out great. If you take a look at, the major brake area right there behind where the cowl is, that turned out nice. And really wasn't a whole lot of damage to the wings. It was all, the tail section, which I think turned out pretty darn good. I've got to hit that with steam to see if I can get some of those wrinkles out below, but the little piece I fit in there didn't turn out too bad. Little paint, and we're ready to remaiden. I am putting in a redundant receiver. I'm going to try to plant that up into the nose here. There's an area for that. So if I can get one in there, that'd be perfect. All right, so here I'm going through this process, and I've done this on a couple planes where I'm just prepping the surface, scraping off some of the loose chunks. And then after I've hit that a little bit, I'm kind of happy with roughing it up, hit it with the Minwax water-based poly. Put about 3 coats on and hit it with that scrubbing pad or that abrasive in between. Next step is masking everything off, which just making sure that the spray paint, and I'm using Rust-Oleum semi-gloss black. That is what I used in the past for one of these planes. It looks good. Here it's pretty wet. It's not as shiny in real life, but it's still a little shiny. It's semi-gloss, but it looks good. After a couple hours and just a few bucks, got her back together. Looks good. Gonna fly her soon to maiden. I'll show that as soon as I can. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.